Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid. Well, I'm back at it. I didn't think I'd be here again, but I'm still in the process of reassessing my collection, and there are a few more decks that, well, there's some that I'm sure that I'm going to be rehoming, and there's a few others that I'm kind of on the fence. So with that, now this is going to be a much shorter video than the others, I hope. All right, so let's get started. If you saw my major deck unboxing video, my deck unboxing palooza video of decks that were collecting in my closet during my YouTube hiatus, you would have seen this deck, the Cirque du Tarot, which is published by Llewellyn. This is a Lisa Robertson deck, illustrated by Josh Tufts, and you saw during my unboxing, I thought that this deck was very, very beautiful, but I had some issues with it. And I have decided that for sure this deck is leaving my collection. In fact, it has already found a new home. Now, in that video, I went over some things that I thought that bothered me a little bit, that I thought the quartz were a little bit lazy and some of the images were too samey, even though I think the artwork in and of itself is beautiful. Look at these backs. I did glance at the book, and it's quite a nice guidebook. And of course, you know, the big pictures that you get, the full artwork with these Llewellyn books. And the book is very, very nicely written. But at the end of the day, if you saw in my previous video, I have two other decks with a similar vibe, this whimsical watercolor vibe that I would reach for before I would reach for this deck. And those two are the Fournier decks that I have, the Tarot de Luz and the Tarot de Carlo Vives. And so I think because I have those two decks, this deck is not going to get the love it deserves, and it's leaving for sure my collection. It has already found a new home. There is really nothing, there's nothing wrong with this deck. It's just I felt right away that I had issues with it, and it was just gonna basically be a dust collector on my shelf, and we don't want that for our decks unless we have, you know, we purposely purchase a deck for collection purposes, you know, just to be a collector's item. And usually, you know, 99% of the time I don't purchase my decks with that intention. The next deck that I'm certain is going to be leaving my home, I've already made the decision, is the Heroine Tarot by Gina Schiapacazzi. This deck is a stunning, stunning deck, and I believe I was enabled by Danny Mystic to purchase this deck. I first saw it on her channel a while ago, and I fell in love with it. It's got these wonderful holographic, I don't know if you can see it, silver edges. It is larger than regular tarot size, you know, here you go, but not too much so. And it's a beautiful watercolor deck. It's very clean, very modern. It's female-centric. And these backs are just so, so cool. But if you saw one of my, I think it was my second deck declutter video recently, you saw that I'm rehoming the Bad Bitches Tarot by Ethany for much of the same reasons. I'm going to be rehoming this deck. It is very, very young. It shows actually no age, really, diversity in this deck. It does show some race, but everybody is very model, beautiful, and cool, and hip, and chic, and young. You know, these are all 20-somethings, and maybe even a little younger You know, how this is very fashion forward, reflects kind of the modern model culture, and that's just not where I'm at, and it's not a deck I want to read with, or I'm called to read with. You know, I have other decks that I'm just chomping at the bit to work with, and this is, you know, because of the reasons I've mentioned, it's not one of those decks. It is beautiful, and if I were 20, 30 something, or a little bit younger, you know, this would be my deck for sure, but I'm just not in that stage of life. There's not a deep connection with this, you know. Yeah, definitely when I was younger, but I found this deck when I was older, and again, it's one of those decks, fantasy self, cool vibe. It's somebody, you know, I purchased it maybe because I thought I was cool, or maybe some of this coolness would rub off on me, but no. Oh, this is like, reminds me of Molly Ringwald. And I'm dating myself by saying that. Some of you younger people watching this video won't know who she is. This is very Kendall Jenner to me. Yeah. So it's beautiful, stunning, but not me, and it hasn't gotten any love. I worked with it a little bit when I first got it, but I haven't since. And I know I'm not going to miss it when it leaves my collection. The one thing I want to add about this deck, and the same with the Bad Bitches Tarot, if I were a professional reader and reading for clients, or reading at, you know, Renaissance fairs and whatnot, these kind of decks would stay in my collection, because there would, you know, you technically would be probably reading for a demographic that would totally vibe with these decks. And if that were the case, I would totally keep these decks in my collection, Bad Bitches and this one. But that is not the case. I read primarily for myself. And so therefore, that's a major reason why I'm rehoming this deck. The next deck, I've gone back and forth, but I'm fairly sure that I'm going to be rehoming it. And it is the Modern Goddess Oracle by Ethany. You know, Ethany's decks have beautiful, beautiful production value, and they, you know, the guidebooks are just fantastic with all the information. And this deck does a little bit better than the Bad Bitches Tarot with depicting some age diversity, just slightly better. But, and look at those backs. They're beautiful. And she seems to be, I think, you know, the way the artwork is done, I think there's some age, you know, maturity that's depicted here, you know, with her curves. And there's, I don't know if you can pick it up on my phone, but some lines, you know, laugh lines etched around her face, as opposed to somebody like her who is very young, smooth complected. So there was an attempt to depict some maturity, but again, it falls a little bit short. But I think largely the demographic that Ethany's going for is the young, hip tarot reader, the newer tarot reader, the millennial, Gen Z. That's, you know, I don't know her mind, but I think, and she's not the only one. I just think that, here's one depicting age. I just think that the over 40 crowd is largely forgotten in tarot decks. And, you know, you can have a long conversation about why that is. And here's another one that does depict age, you know, the crone, which I do appreciate. But the other thing is, while this artwork is cool, I haven't really vibed with it. And I don't know why, because her Awakened Soul Oracle is one of my favorites. And it's one that I think, you know, I can't ever imagine it leaving my collection. And it's kind of along these same vibes. And look here, it's very young. And even when it does depict age, it's only through the color of the hair. Can't really see it on the face. Here we have some, a little bit. But largely, it's young and beautiful. I'm about 90% sure I'm going to rehome this deck. I just haven't been reaching for it, even though it's a really good guidebook. I love this card. I'm a little because I love sea turtles. But I really, really haven't bonded with it, and I don't use it. So, you know, maybe somebody else could fall in love with it, use it, and it would get a lot more love than it is sitting on my shelf. So this is the Modern Goddess Oracle, and again, same thing said, if I were reading for other people, this kind of a deck would definitely stay in my collection, but I don't. So yeah, and it probably needs to go where it's going to get some more love. The next deck that I'm mostly sure that I'm going to be rehoming is the Guardian Angel Tarot deck by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. And this is the set that has, it's the older set that has Doreen Virtue's name on it. I think any newer incarnations just have Radley Valentine's name in it. But this deck, I'm pretty sure is going to be leaving. This is such a beautiful deck. It has the vintage aesthetic that I really love. It's etched in gold. It's kind of a tarot deck with its own kind of bent to it. And you see that all of the cards have some text at the bottom, and it's kind of long. It's a message. So you get messages in the book, which is really, really good, but you get them also, all this text at the bottom of the card. Now, I never did like a reading with this card. This was definitely a one-card pull, usually before bed or early morning to get a message, you know, just to kind of set your day. But never used it, you know, as a deck for spreads or anything, you know, intricate like that. I find that I really don't want to read a bunch of text at the bottom of my cards. A keyword or a phrase, but not a book, because I'll read the guidebook, but I don't want to read part of the, you know, a guidebook on my card. And so, I mean, I did use them on my altar and as a card a day, but I find I haven't been reaching for it because I'm moving away from kind of the self-helpy decks. It's just not what I'm reaching for anymore. You know, a keyword, a phrase is okay, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's lovely. I really do. But some of the messages I don't really vibe with anymore. So I think this deck, oh, maybe I'm just going to cut them in half and keep the images. But then again, well, let's see. I'd cut some of the pretty angel here too. I don't know, maybe I'll do that and then just keep the pictures for crafting. That's an idea. But yes, I'm either going to rehome it or I'm going to cut it up and use it. So either it's going to find a new home or I'm going to use it, find another way to use it. So that is the Guardian Angel Tarot deck by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. So beautiful, very beautiful. Now, these are the last two decks for this video. I told you this video was going to be shorter, and I lumped them together because they have the same creator. It's the Synchronicity deck and the Story Cards by Kathy Nichols. These are beautiful mixed media art cards, and they were all the rage a couple of years ago. And rightly so, because the artwork is beautiful. The one thing that has always bothered me about the story cards is, you know, the backs are like the box. You have the title and the artist, and it's like, I know what they are. I don't want the artist's name on the back, but, you know, be that as it may, it is a beautiful deck. And this is the backs for the Synchronicity deck. Okay, now these decks are fairly interchangeable, and because they're by the same artist, you know, they're very similar. So if you have one, do you need to get the other? You know, I don't, you know, that's up to you. I think she has a deal on Etsy where you get a little bit off if you buy both of them. But I kind of use these, especially the story card deck, as kind of like Lenormand. I pull several and try to get a message, you know, pulling 3 or 4 of them at the same time and rearranging them and trying to get a message, which was a fun way to use these cards. Now, both decks have some problematic cards that I have pulled out of the deck. So in the Synchronicity deck, yeah, I kept these with the little booklet. The decks both come with a little booklet. I don't know why, but she has an affinity with drawing white presenting figures with feathers, and in kind of drawing them in a kind of Native American way. And that's not to say that, you know, you can't have light skin and have Native American ancestry, but I don't know why it's so prevalent in the deck. And it's just a little nitpicky thing. Now, if she depicted an actual Native American, you know, with the feather headdress, that with appropriate heading, maybe that would have been different. But I don't know why there's these cards. And like here, eagle. I don't know, storyteller. But to me, she looks white. So I pulled these cards out of the the cards in the Synchronicity deck. I think there were fewer in the story cards that I pulled out. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, I pulled out. Okay, so there's storyteller in the story cards as well, so overlapping cards. And this one, fierce. Now, I don't know if she's a Native American girl or not. I mean, she's really cute, but it kind of edges, you know, it's kind of borderline for me. So I took these cards out of the deck for when I used it. And I hate doing that. I hate taking out a ton of cards in decks, whether it's because of their Christian messages or whatnot, or images. But I hate having to take out a bunch of cards in a deck. Now, one deck that I do have that I use a lot more than these two is the cute little Inner Compass deck by Heather Hopes. This is a tiny little deck, you guys. I'm sure you all know it. It's been around for a while. But I find I really love the collage work. Look at these backs. And this deck is still available on Etsy. I find that I vibe with the keywords much better in this deck, and I find that they also correspond to the image very, very well. And I think it's just a more usable deck for me. I really love the cardstock. It's nice and sturdy. And because I love this collage mixed media, art, and this vintagey vibe, I find that this deck goes with a lot of my decks, because you know what kind. I love vintage art decks, and I have quite a few of them. I actually took Heather Hope's Soul Collage classes, where you make kind of your own personal oracle deck using collage and, you know, magazine images and making your own collage cards. I took a few of her classes over the, you know, during the lockdowns when she was having them, and found them to be they were what I needed at the time. So I'm a big fan of hers. I'm a big fan of this deck. I'll try to remember to leave a link below in case you're new and you're just discovering this. But I find that I vibe with this imagery, the keywords I find correspond together, you know, the images, the keywords, far more usable to me. And yeah, I use this with a number of my decks. So a lot more practical than the other two, as beautiful as they are. But I really do love the other ones, just in spite of the problematic cards. So those two, I'm on the fence. Let me know what your experience with the other two are, if you have them, if you've let them go, or am I just being persnickety with those problematic cards. But I do, you know, in all honesty, I do reach for this. When I want this type of a deck, I reach for this over the other two. And, you know, that's just the reality of it. Okay, I have decided that there are certain decks that are definitely going to go for sure, and I'm going to give anybody who wants to the option to purchase them. And since I don't have a website, I'm just going to show you which ones they are, and the prices will be listed down below in the description box. And these prices will include shipping, but it's only going to be for the US only, because shipping is kind of a lot nowadays. So yeah, if you're in the US, these decks, any of these decks, if you're so inclined, can be available to you, and the prices that are in the description box below will include shipping. So I just want to give you a quick overview of condition, so you know what you're getting. And basically, I'm going to put in the description box below the Tarot of the Unknown Shadows. I know this will definitely be leaving, and you will have first dibs. So I haven't used this deck. I took basically the plastic off of the deck, and the tuck box is in perfect, pristine condition. Tarot Cats by Bunny D. It's an indie deck. This will also definitely be going. And the only thing major with this is I got this box dented in the mail. So there is a little dent on the box. But the deck itself is in perfect and beautiful condition. And you can see the edging. There's a tiny bit of wear right here, but it's in really good condition. There's no exaggerated bow. These are a glossy cardstock, and these will be in the description box below. My bad bitches. You can see the box is pretty much in pristine condition, as is the book and the cards themselves. And you will receive any of these decks in order, but you can see it's pretty much in pristine condition, really, really good condition. And you will be getting these decks at great prices. The next deck that'll be linked below will be the Witches of Legend. Box and deck are in pristine condition, and the cards are too. So see the gilding is very much intact, and there's no exaggerated bow on the side. And again, this is a glossy cardstock, but it's not the sticky kind. It glides very, very easily. Next deck that I'll be rehoming, the Heroine Tarot box and deck are both in absolutely pristine condition. There's the box. You can see the holographic edges are intact. There's no bow in the deck. It's basically like a brand new deck. Oh, there's the Fool card. Okay. All right, and the Modern Goddess Oracle by Ethany. And I don't think there's any major dents or damage or wear on this box. The book is in excellent condition. And you can see the inside of the box. Now I do have, I'm going to show you this, the box is coming a little bit unglued here. If you press it, it stays down, but sometimes, yeah, it's just coming a little bit unglued, and it's been like that since I got it. But the rest of it, pristine. Cards are as well. The deck is not bowed. Yeah, it's all in order for you, for whoever would like to give this deck a home. I'm going back and forth on my Synchronicity and Story cards. I have to think about these a little bit more. But if I sell them, I'm probably going to sell them as a set. So I don't know if these are going to be linked down below, but if they are, just to show you that the tuck boxes are in also pristine condition. There's no like shelfware or anything. So these may or may not be linked down below. So if you're interested in any of these decks, again, you can contact me at my Gmail account, which I'll also link down below. Prices will include shipping. Just contact me, and hopefully these decks will find a new home. All right, that's it. That's all I have for you today. I told you this video was going to be a lot shorter. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you found any value to this video, please consider hitting a like, a subscribe, and maybe hitting that super thanks button, all of which helps this small channel to grow. And with that, I will leave you to get on with your beautiful day. Bye for now.